video with your daughters. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Bibi. I am a longtime Keeley's Camp coach, as well as the Keeley's Camp marketing manager and a ski racing camp and backcountry camp alumna. And I'm really excited to be joining the Keeley's Camp leadership team this summer to be a part of the day camp as your point person. And I'm super excited to be on snow at Mount Hood really soon. Okay, so as many of you probably already know, every day we do on-hill video analysis at all of our ski racing camps. And we have found that doing video on iPads during a training session on the hill is really cool and valuable because it gives athletes instantaneous visual feedback and a great opportunity to practice integrating what we're talking about in video into their skiing. And in my experience, it's really powerful to show an athlete something in their skiing on the video and then watch them change or fix whatever it is we're talking about in the following few runs. And in general, video analysis is a really important tool we use in ski racing that provides athletes with a lot of space to learn about technique, improve their tactics, and learn in a different way. So we wanted to do this webinar because we know that you parents don't often observe video analysis when we're doing it on the hill. And we wanted to share what our coaches are looking for and focusing on while doing video analysis with your daughters so that your athlete can get the most out of watching video at home. So during this webinar, we're going to go over 3 main topics that we try and hit on when we're watching video with your daughters. And these are what you do well, body position, stance, and balance, and tactics. And one thing I want everyone to remember while we talk about these topics is keeping it simple and focusing on one thing at a time is really important because video analysis can quickly get really overcomplicated and confusing to athletes when the focus is on too many topics at once. So yeah, we're just going to try and keep it simple, focus on one thing at a time, and I'm excited to jump into this. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat and I will answer them at the end. Okay, so we're going to start here with what you do well, the importance of strengths. The way that most of our coaches typically start a video analysis session is by asking the athletes, what did you do well or what did you like about your run? And then coaches will kind of jump in with what we think and our opinion on what they're doing well. I think it's really important that athletes know their strengths as well as what they're working on in their skiing. I think strengths are often their superpowers as they're unique to the individual. And these are things that can help you with your confidence on race day, or if you're having a challenging run or training session, it's really important to come back to these things that you know you're doing well. I also think confidence is a huge contributing factor to a lifelong love of the sport, which is always a goal here at Keeley's Camp. We just want everyone to love skiing as much as all of our staff does. So we ask that our coaches make this part of video analysis really positive, and our language as coaches is really important. For example, saying something like, you had really good movement through this section, instead of saying things like, you had really good movement in this section, but your tactics were off. What they can improve on will come up later in the video session. And we don't want to negate what they're doing well by adding the word but or focusing too much on what they can improve, because everyone that comes to our camp is a really beautiful and amazing skier, and we want people to remember that for sure. Throughout camp, we like to look for trends in what the athlete's strengths are that they can carry forward and help their confidence and make them feel empowered in their skiing. Okay, we're going to move on to an example. So if this was an athlete, yeah, what's up?
Can you share the slideshow? We're just seeing the first slide.
Oh, you guys aren't seeing. Okay, let's see if I can fix that. Sorry about that.
Now we can see the what you do well slide.
Okay, can you see it right now if I enter present mode?
It
Can
just says
anyone?
just says loading.
Okay, well, maybe I can keep it on the browser so that you
No.
guys can see it. Lindsay, how does that look?
We can see what's, as long as the slide that you're talking about is the blue square, we can see it.
Okay. Can you see it when I'm switching them right now?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Sorry, guys, about that. So this was the slide I was just talking about strengths. So I'll give everyone a second to look at that. Yeah, and just shout if it stops working again. Okay. So this is the example that I wanted to go through. If this were an athlete that I was doing video analysis with, I would firstly ask her what I think she's doing well, and then I would offer my opinion that I think she has a very strong and stacked athletic stance. Her hips are forward and over her ankles, which is allowing her to roll her knees and ankles into the hill to get this awesome angulation of the skis that you can see. She's skiing with aggression and going for it, which is awesome and something we love to see. And then I have a second example to show you as well. That's a video. So let's see if I can get this to work. Can you guys see this video playing?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, we'll watch it one more time. Okay, so this athlete is doing a really good job of finding forward movement in her hips in the transition of the turn. And on the top of the course, she's starting her turns early and setting herself up really nicely by crossing the rise line high enough. She has an impressive recovery midway through the course and does a really good job of jumping back into the course with lots of aggression and forward movement. I think that this is a really good example of the importance of talking about strengths because it shows the power of reforming a mistake. If the coach only focuses on the mistake in the video analysis, the athlete is probably going to walk away feeling a little bit defeated, a little embarrassed, and frustrated. But instead, if the coach focuses on how this athlete had a great recovery and comes out of the mistake skiing with more aggression, the athlete is probably going to walk away feeling proud and like they learned something. And I think that this creates a much more positive and constructive space to talk about why the mistake actually happened and how the athlete can fix it in the future. Not to mention that the athlete is also probably more likely to implement this kind of recovery after a mistake again and ultimately ski faster, which is the goal of this whole thing, right? Okay. So now I'm going to move on a little bit to body position, stance, and balance, and what we look for as coaches when talking about this in video analysis. So yeah, we do talk a lot about basic body position in the gaits and stance and balance. And this is different than the line we take through the gaits or tactics, which is what we call it. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So when discussing body position on the hill and in video analysis with athletes, we like to look from the ground up. So starting at their feet, we're saying, how is your stance? What is the distance between your feet like? Are your hips over your feet? Are you balanced throughout the turn? Is your upper body quiet or is it moving around a lot? Are your shins in the front or the back of your boots? Are you being aggressive? And this is the time during video analysis that coaches will offer suggestions on drills that they can do outside of the gaits during their warm-up prior to getting in the gaits each day. And this is a big reason we do our best to have drills and skills sessions and on-snow warm-up runs during our camps so that athletes can practice and implement what they are talking about in video analysis on snow. I think one other thing I want to bring up is that it's really important to look at body position from a constructive stance and talk about what the athletes can do versus what not to do. I specifically love to find a kinesthetic way to complement the visual feedback they're getting from the video analysis. So, for example, if I had an athlete who needed to work on engaging their core, I would show them the video, and then maybe we could do a plank or a boat pose together to see what it feels like to actually engage their core muscles. Muscle memory can be really helpful when you get on snow. So the next time they're in slalom gates, I can say, okay, let's bring that feeling you had in your core when we were doing the plank. Okay. So we're going to move on to a body position, stance, and balance example. So with this athlete, I would probably first talk about what they're doing well, like we just talked about. And then I would talk a little bit about their shoulders and hips when looking at their body position, as we can see that their shoulders and hips are leaning a little bit into the slope, which is preventing them from stacking their hips over their feet and their shoulders over their hips. So this is causing their balance to be a little bit off and creating some instability throughout the turn. And I would probably recommend that this athlete do something we call the airplane drill, which I have a video of right here that I can play for you. Let me know if you guys can see this. Let's see if I can make this full screen and you can still see it. All right, can you guys see this full screen?
No.
Oh,
Huh. It's pretty small like this, but let's see if I can zoom in. Can you see it like that?
that's better.
Okay. Oh, sorry. We accidentally went forward a slide. Let's come back. Thanks for bearing with me through some of these slideshow technicalities. Okay, so as you can see,
Grab your poles, like.
I'm going to mute this. This drill, they're dragging the outside pole and really trying to get those shoulders level over the outside ski by dragging the outside pole and pointing the uphill pole up the slope. And when we teach this, one kinesthetic cue I love to teach with this is finding a pinch in the side, as I think that this can really help athletes when they're trying to work on this in the course. So I would probably talk about this in the video and then help guide the athlete into that position where they're finding a pinch in their outer side so that they can practice doing that in the airplane drill. Yeah, okay, so now let me zoom out. We're going to move on to a second example. This one is a really good body position example. We can see that in their hands and their upper body, they're doing a lot of twisting, a lot of upper body rotation, and that's kind of preventing them from having a parallel stance or pressure on the outside ski. So a great drill I would recommend for this athlete would be the pivot slips drill that I'm going to show you. This is a really good drill for keeping that upper body quiet and facing down the hill while their feet are in that parallel good stance. And I think that this would be a really awesome drill for that athlete to practice in their warm-up the following day. I'll let this play for a second and then we can move on. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about tactics. And tactics refers to the line that we're taking through the gates. And I wanted to take a second to define a few basic tactics terms for all of you, as I think that this will be helpful when we go through a few examples together. I also think this is helpful for all the athletes on the call to see, because tactics are really important in our skiing, and video analysis is a really good time for us to talk about them so that when you get on snow, it's a little bit easier to visualize some of these topics. So first one is the rise line, which refers to the vertical line above the gate, as you can see in this green dotted line right here. And then pretty much the opposite of the rise line is the fall line, which is the vertical line below the gate, as indicated by this orange dotted arrow. Pressure is what you apply to the skis to make them bend and turn. So pressure is kind of a force. And then this one's really important. The apex is the farthest point of the turn, approximately midway through the arc, in which the skis point straight down the fall line. I also wanted to show this really awesome line graphic, as I think sometimes parents and athletes can get confused about where they're actually supposed to be in terms of line. So we can see that this graphic is talking about where the apex of the turn, or as I just said, the place where the skis are pointing straight down the fall line, is happening in reference to the gate. So typically, coaches try to help athletes find a sweet spot somewhere between direct line and high line. And it's also really dependent on course set. And this is something we talk a lot about in inspection, because if a course is really turny, athletes are going to need to take a little bit of a higher line to be able to pull it off. But in straighter sections, the more direct line is definitely more efficient and faster because they don't need to set up quite as much. The goal is that gates are not interrupting our good skiing, and this is something we really focus on when discussing tactics in video analysis with our athletes. So I wanted to walk through 2 examples together and talk about what I look for in terms of tactics when doing video analysis with athletes. So we'll start with this giant slalom one. I'm going to play it once through and then maybe a second time, and then I'll go through it and talk about it. Okay, I'm going to find a spot. I want to pause this to talk about it. Okay, so this is a really good example of an athlete that I would talk about moving pressure, or the force we apply to the skis, up the hill with. She is actually crossing the rise line pretty high, like right here, but she's not applying force or pressure to the skis until she's at or below the gate, which is causing her to kind of be on this lower line. So I would talk about, rolling her knees and ankles to apply pressure to the ski, which is more of a stance, balance, and body position thing, but it really relates to tactics because it's impacting the line she's taking through the gates. And as she continues to apply pressure to the ski a little bit higher on the hill, she's also going to need to think about waiting a little bit longer to initiate the turn, because if she, let's see if I can show you. Yeah, like right here is a really good example. If she applied full pressure, excuse me, to the skis right here and really carved them, she would probably either hit the gate or go inside of it. So as she continues to bring her pressure up the hill, she's also going to need to be a little bit more patient so that she can go out and around the gate, as we're seeing in this one. Kind of like this direct line. She's coming out, or this middle line above the gate, and then applying pressure higher. And yeah, this would be a really good graphic to show this athlete too. So then I also have a slalom example for you. Okay, I'm going to play it one more time. Okay. So I'm going to find a good spot to talk about this. This second example, we can see that this athlete is having her apex a little bit too high on the hill. Like right here, her skis are pretty much pointed straight down the fall line, but she's just doing that a little bit too early, which is causing her to have to slide most of her turn until she gets to the gate. Even though she has really good angulation in her ankles and knees, because her apex is a little bit higher on the hill, she's not able to stand on that outside ski. For the same reason I was just talking about before, in that if she stood on her turn right here, she would definitely end up on the inside of that gate. I also think this slide is causing her to experience a little bit more bumpiness at the bottom of the turn and get a little bit late, even though she started her turn and crossed the rise line really early. So I would work with this athlete on being a little bit more patient in her transition, which she does a really good job of down here, actually, and is able to more cleanly have singular arcs on her skis and be a little bit more patient. Okay. So, a few of the big takeaways I hope you gathered from this webinar are to keep it simple, keep it positive, ask your daughter questions, ask her coaches questions, and use your resources. This is a photo of a page from our Achilles Camp Journal that will be for sale this summer that is looking at some video review prompts that we encourage the girls to do while watching video. So this is a really good resource for them, or to like do something similar to this, even on a plain piece of paper if they don't have the journal. And then she can come back later and look at this and look at what she was doing well tactically and technically, and what she can improve on technically, and what drill might help her improve her technical skiing outside of the gates. And then we also send every athlete home with Achilles Camp evaluation card with some things their coach was working with them on. So this is another really good resource for them to use for at-home video analysis or throughout their season. Yeah, that's about all I have. Thank you for joining. And I can take some questions now if anyone has them. You can also pop your questions in the chat, or I'm happy to go back to any slides if anyone wants to take a further look at them. Okay. Yes, okay, the question is, sorry if I missed this at the beginning, but will you be sending out the recording of the webinar? And yes, we will be. It'll be on our blog, and you should be able to find that on our website. And we could also potentially send it in a newsletter email. This question says, as a parent, will we be able to see the daily ski videos? So I meant to mention this, but we do upload video every day for our day camper parents, and it usually is uploaded by dinner time at the latest, but you know, sometimes that can change on travel days and stuff. And yeah, your daughter should get a folder at the end of camp as well with all of her video from the entire week linked in there. So there's a lot of opportunity for parents to be able to see the daily video as well. Where will it be uploaded? The link will be sent in the WhatsApp chat, and then you'll get an email at the end of camp with all the folder with all of her video. Okay, this question says, you said the comment will be very positive, but are you able to point out what they should improve for the next run? So yeah, definitely we're talking about how they can improve, but coming at it from a constructive place. And after we've already talked about what they went well, just so that the athlete feels like it's a really safe space and they're not being attacked, or yeah, we just want to keep it really positive, but also definitely talking about the spaces that they can improve and the things that they can do versus the things that we don't want them to do. This question says, as an overnight camper, do we have video access? And yes, you will have video access as well for overnight camp. Yep, Keely's just chiming in here saying daily video folders will be sent to overnight camp parents and day camp parents. In our recap email at the end of camp, we will also send out links to the video. All right, any more questions? Yep, Google Drive is the platform we use for all of our video. We do recommend that you download video of you and your daughter for you after the camp, after the session is complete, because we do delete the video from time to time on Google Drive just because it takes up a lot of space.
There's a question in here too about a backpack protector for GS. I know that's pretty general, but I also feel like worth asking. And yes, I think that back protectors are a great tool that we have, and especially as girls get to U16 age and older, a lot of clubs will require or strongly recommend back protectors for GS and Super G. So that is totally a personal choice about back protectors, but they are a great thing. And it's really important that if you're not used to wearing a back protector, that you do start training with it.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, I'll be staying